What is going on, guys, and welcome back to the next iteration in this Davinci Resolve training. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys your daily dose of training, and today we have a pretty interesting lineup here. So we're going to be getting into titles. Now titles, I will say, is something that can really elevate your video, and of course this is more of like an introduction to all of this is kind of introductory stuff, but I want to just kind of introduce you guys to titles and some of the things you can kind of do with them in this software. Okay, I think I'm going to be able to show you a few things here that can kind of make your titles just a little bit more interesting, but also keep this really simple for someone that has experienced this for the first time as well. Alright, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the software. So here's our clip. Actually, I want to trim the beginning too. There we go. So obviously we now have video on our screen, and what I want to do is pause one of these moments and kind of at a good moment, like this is kind of a cool moment. You know, we got like lights up here, you know, kind of here. We got like the garage over here, and then we got my character's arms up, light beam showing here, and the one wheel that he's riding on. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually create a slice. I'm gonna hit S on the keyboard. Okay, so that way we can always have that spot marked, so I can always get back there when I want. If you're not able to like pull this and it doesn't snap to here, it's because your snapping is off, which is right here, which you can click on that magnet. As you can see, it's kind of darkened now, and then now it won't snap. You're kind of like you know, I can't get it right. So that's because you just need to turn on snapping. Okay, and now you can see that it's highlighted white. That indicates that it's on. Okay, now we're gonna actually get into some titles. So titles should be over here on the left hand side. That we got our environment set up. If you don't see this, obviously you just need to click on the effects button right up here at the top left, and that's how you can toggle that off and on. I'm going to go over to titles. Okay, one of the main titles, and probably one of the most important titles that you're probably going to use, is a thing called Title Plus. And the reason why Title Plus, because Title Plus gives you the most you know, creativity with your title. Now we're not going to get into much of customizing and animating our titles too much today. That will be a video for another day, but I do want to introduce you guys to working with Titles Plus, because when you get into Fusion, it just gives you a lot more flexibility when you start creating these really complex node trees. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off on the right foot, right? So let's jump back into the software here. I'm going to go over to the title, or the text plus, which is indicated right here. We're going to drag and drop that right on our playhead here, and you see how that snapped right on the video as well. Okay, now obviously it's not positioned the way I want, and it's not the right font, and it's not the right size, and all this stuff, right? So this is now where you get into some of the properties of the text. So if you go ahead and click on your text, okay, then we're going to go over to our inspector here on the right hand side. And if you do not see the inspector, all you need to do is click on it right here at the top, and that will make that appear. And remember, I told you guys that the inspector is kind of like, you know, it's kind of like the properties and the attributes of whatever you have selected. So right now I have the text selected, so we're working on the attributes of the elements, or the properties of the text. Okay, and as you can see the title, what it has in here. It says custom title, and that's not what I wanted to say. I wanted to say Muse, you know, I don't know, 3.0 or something kind of cool, right? All right, now that doesn't look all that great. It just looks basic, right? Well, when you start getting into these different fonts, this is where it gets really fun. So to change your font, you can actually click on font right here. And right now you can see Open Sans is the default, which can look good depending on what you have written and what style you're trying to go for. But right now I'm looking for something called, you know, definitely cycle through these, you know, play around with some of these. Like, actually, that looked kind of cool. You know, this, where was it? It was somewhere here. But either way, you guys can play around with these, cycle through them, hover over them, and kind of see all the different ones. I know the one I want is something with road in it. I believe it's road. It's an R in it. So it's a font. Here it is, Road Rage. So this is kind of what I was looking for. And so as you can see, now we've got our Road Rage here. Okay, now there's a lot, of course, you can do with this font. Okay, I'm not going to get into the details too much, but what you can do mainly is the main things you want to work with is probably the sizing, the tracking, and probably the color. You know, that's probably the main things that you're going to work with when it comes to beginning text, and then positioning it left and right, which we'll get into in a second. All right, so obviously I want to make this a lot bigger to fill up the screen a little bit, and you know, maybe not that much, but maybe about right there. And then maybe I kind of want some space. So tracking is like the space, the way it tracks across a linear track. So maybe you want this spaced out a little bit more, or not. You know, some wedding stuff that I've done, you know, I'll go over here and get like Mondstadt. Okay, Mondstadt is a really cool font, or Monsterant. I don't know if I pronounced that right or wrong. You guys know what I'm talking about. Monsterant, or Monsterant, whatever. I'll come over here and I'll make the size like really, really small. And then I'll put the tracking like really, really high up, and then I'll say, Chris, and Zara, something like that. Me and my wife's name, and kind of put that right here nice and small. And then what I'll do is put like a solid darkened color to create contrast. You see how this is kind of blending in with the background? So this is one of the things you can kind of do with text. You can kind of take this this text box here, and you can bring it up to the next track by just clicking and holding it and dragging it up like I just did. And then you can go on over here to an effect, or a generator, excuse me, and then you can go over here to solid color, and you can drag and drop that into here as well. Okay, and as you can see, that is too dark, so we can't see my image now underneath it. That's because we just need to change the opacity or the transparency level of this one. So we can do that by, again, going into the inspector tab and going over to settings, and then going over to opacity, and just change it to around 60 or 50%. For in this case my image is already dark enough, but you guys can see you kind of get that nice popped out text effect. Okay, so that's just one thing you can kind of do creatively with text, and I figured I would just show you guys that. Okay, I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but I just figured I would show you because we're already on it. All right, but for now we have a really big thick text right now that we're trying to work with, so we're gonna go back over here to the title, not on the settings portion. We're gonna change that back to road. I just typed it in to get that up here. We're gonna, oh, by the way, if you are on any menu item like tracking right now, you see how the tracking is kind of too far away? I want to reset that back to the way it was. All you have to do is double click on the word itself. Okay, so double click and it resets it back to default. You want to reset the size back to default, double click on the word size. You want to reset the line spacing back to default, double click on line spacing. So those are things that you can do to really get back to where you were like normal. Or you can come up here and hit this little tiny reset button right here, and that will do it as well too. Okay, and as you can see, it put it all the way back to Open Sans. Okay, so let's go back to where we were. So we're gonna go and type in Muse, I don't know, 3.0. I'm gonna go back to our font style right here, Road Rage, and then we're gonna change our color. I like this cyan color, it's kind of that color I like. Okay, and as you can see, I clicked on the color indicator, and you can just drag and drop this plus into whatever color you would like, and that's how you can get that. So we're going to hit cancel for right now because I already changed the color, but you would hit OK to confirm it. And then of course I want to change the size. So like we did earlier, change the size back to something I had earlier. And then the tracking, I think the tracking is okay. So I'm going to double click on the word tracking just to get it back to where it was. And then I want to change where it's positioned. Okay, there's a lot of ways to do this, but the easiest way, and the one that's going to kind of transcend into other things, this may not be the best way, but it's just the easiest way to get a good workflow going. But you can go over here to settings, and then you can just position it by dragging and dropping, or dragging and moving your X and Y axis. Okay, so moving that left, right, you see how it goes up and down, and then, or left and right, and then you can do this Y axis to go up and, kind of going right here, you can go up and down. Okay, again, if you want to reset everything, just type on the word position, and it repositioned everything back to where it was. Okay, there is another way to move text. Like I said, it's not the best way. This is probably the best way I'm going to show you guys. Okay, it's more advanced, but I'll go ahead and show it to you because we're in here. If you go over here to the very bottom left corner of the media preview window, you can actually click on this little box icon, or if you don't see that, you can click on this little arrow and click on the transform icon. Okay, and then now you can actually move your text around by clicking anywhere on it. Just don't click on the center here because you're going to click the anchor point. But you can actually click anywhere on this now where the box is, and now you can move it freely. So you can like put it right here, you can test it out over down here, whatever you want. So for me, I'm gonna put mine on the top left corner here because it's the least busy, and there we have it. Okay, And then of course you can toggle that mode back on or off by clicking it. And now you're able to get back to a normal, screen here. Okay. All right, I'm gonna just take a moment here to pause. The reason why I want to pause, because we just did a lot with text. I showed you guys some in-game stuff what you can do with creating contrast, with putting a black screen or a colored screen between text, moving it on a different track or on a different layer. Then I also showed you guys how you can change the size. I showed you guys how to, change the spacing between the text. I showed you guys also how to change the color of the text, how to change the type of text or the font. So there's one last thing I'm gonna show you guys, and this is really cool. So if you click on the text here, okay, and you go back over to the title section of the text, you can go over here to where it says shading. And this is where you can do some really, really neat stuff. You can add, like, maybe you don't want it to be shaded, and you see how this is all solid colored blue? What if I wanted the outline to only be blue, but not the inner? Well, you could then of course click right here and change the shading type to be now the outer, as you guys can see, and you can change how thick that line is right here by dragging and dropping or dragging this little meter here for thickness. And that already right there just elevated the text. Okay, like that looked really cool, and you can get into different colors on the inside and stuff like that too. But like I said, there's a lot you can do with text, as you guys can see. Get in here, play with these settings, and find what works for you in your project. But definitely play around with that, and I look forward to getting more into depth. I didn't want this video to run as long as it has, but there's just so much you can do with text. Okay, so I hope that was a really nice soft introduction to text and how you can use it to create some really cool things. And yeah, that will pretty much conclude this video. So what we have next is let's go ahead and check that one off. I kind of got into it a little bit today, but I got into generators. But I'm going to show you a little bit more what you can do with those generators. So I will touch on that more a little bit in depth on another video. But we'll go ahead and check it out for now, because I did kind of show you guys one of the main generators that I use, which is solid color. But there are many others that you can do as well, and how you can use those properties or the inspector tab to kind of change the transparency of that generator. Okay. I think we're gonna go ahead and get into effects. I think that's a good next video, and I think that you guys will find it to be really, really fun. Okay, so either way, guys, I hope that was a really good daily dose of your Davinci Resolve tutorial, and I look forward to giving you guys more tomorrow. All right, you guys take care, and we'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.